Hello, first grade, and we are finishing, we're not finishing, yeah, we are. We're finishing up talking about clocks that say 8 o'clock. We're finishing up with the 00 at the top. Next week, we're going to be learning how to count minutes. So let's go ahead and review. There are two different types of clocks. The first type of clock is called the analog clock, and this one you will find in schools or businesses sometimes. And they have numbers 1 all the way to 12 on it. It has the big hand, which is minutes. It has a short hand, which tells you the hour. We then have the digital clock. The digital clock is what you will find on your computer, on cell phones, on tablets. Sometimes schools or businesses have this type of clock as well. This one is easier to read. However, to grow our brains, we are looking at the analog clock. And we have been talking about how on the analog clock, there are two sets of numbers. However, we see only one set. Our brain has to see the second set. The first set of numbers are the red ones, and they go by 1 all the way to 12. They count by 1, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The second set of numbers we can see on this clock, but you don't see them. Your brain just has to know them. This is what the clock would actually look like, and there's only one set of numbers. But for the clock that we are using to learn how to tell time, it has another set of numbers. And the second set is in blue, and there are little tick marks, and then a number. And it counts by 5, so we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Now, for the 60, I've written over and put 0, 0. Because when the blue hand or the minute hand is pointing to the 12, it means 0, 0. That is o'clock. Let's go ahead and do some practice. We always start with our hand. Our hour hand we start first, and it is the little hand. And our little hand we look at, and it is pointing to the 9. So it is 9 something. We have to now look for the minute hand, which is the big hand. We look towards our big hand, and it's pointing to the 0, 0. So we know this is 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Let's do another one. Ooh. We start with the hour hand, which is our little hand, and our little hand is pointing to the 2. So we know it is 2. Then we look at our minute hand, which is our big hand, and it is pointing all the way up to the 0, 0. So we know this is 2 o'clock. Let's do one more together. In this one, the red hand, the little hand, is kind of hidden, but it is still here, and it is pointing to the 12. So we know it is 12. And we look at our minute hand, and it is pointing up to the 0, 0, so it's 12 o'clock. Go ahead and get out your telling time math packet that looks like this. If you need to pause the video, you can. Okay, so this was the page we did yesterday. Go ahead and open it up. Turn it again, and you will come to this page. You can get out a red and blue crayon that might help you. That's going to help me. So I've got my red and blue crayons sitting beside me. And I know that I need to go through and mark all of the, oh my goodness, they don't have any hands on them. Maybe that's our job. It says, draw hands on each clock to match the time underneath. Yep, we get to draw the hands this time. Last time, we read what the hands were saying and wrote the time underneath. This time, we already have the time. This is like the digital clock. It's already telling us. But we have to put the hands to make the analog clock say the same thing. So the hour hand will be red. So I'm going to go through and color all of my hour hands red. And we know that the hour hand is always the first number. So I'm going through and coloring all of my hour hands. This might help you. Feel free to do that as well. Next, I need to go through and color the minute hand. And we know that the minute hand is the second part on the digital clock. So I'm going to go through and color the minute hand blue. Okay. Now I'm going to use a pen to draw the hands because the hands are kind of small. If you want to try to use a crayon, you can, or you might want to use a pencil. So let's look at the first one together. I look at my hour hand, which will be the short hand, and it should be pointing to the 3. So I'm going to come to the middle of my clock. I'm going to draw a short hand out that points to the 3. I look at my minute hand and it says 0, 0. Now, looking at these clocks, they only have one set of numbers. They don't have our numbers outside that help us count. So we have to use our brain to remember. I know that we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Oh my goodness, but this doesn't say 60, it says 0, 0. But I know that means my big hand goes all the way up, touches the 12, and that stands for o'clock. So I have 3 o'clock, and it matches 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and do one more together. Let's do this one right here. I go to my hour hand first, and it says 11. So my little hand is going to be pointing to the 11. I then look at my minutes, and I know that my minute hand, which is the big hand, says o'clock. And I know that means my big hand reaches all the way to the 12 for o'clock. Go ahead and finish this page.